What's up? Thanks for stopping in to another edition. Tackle Shop Live. Starting right now. Oh, Robert Donahue, how you doing, buddy? Mike Hayer, what's happening, man? Keith Howard, how you doing, man? What's going on? Hey, Tammy, how you doing? Thanks for stopping by. Michael McCabe, Greg, GDP De Palma's checking in. What's up, brother?
GDP's in the house.
Right on, man. Roland Barker, Jamie Johnson, Jason, how you doing? John Kopp. Man, we got a great big show for you guys tonight. Derek Hudnall's in the house. Absolutely. We're going to get him on here in just a minute. We're going to talk some fishing. And we also have Ryan Teach from St. Croix. Man, what a great thing that is. He's going to talk about graphite and rods and tapers and what it's all about. And we're going to talk about the Victory rod and how it came together. Derek seeming to love that rod, so we're going to talk fishing with him about that.
Oh, yeah.
My name is Mike Acord. This is George Acord, and behind the camera is cameraman Nick.
Showtime.
How you doing, Nick?
Hey, everybody.
So we got a great one for you. Roland, how you doing? Todd Langle, Antonio Gomez is in the house.
Go, Gomez.
Right on. Huh? Yeah. Yeah, so we're good to go for tonight, and we got a great big show. Thanks, everybody, for stopping by once again. We got a bunch of stuff going on. And before we get going here, I just want to mention Caitlin, our social media director. She told me that I needed to announce that all you guys need to go over and like and share and get on our TikTok channel and make sure you get on our Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, because she's putting stuff all over the place. She's not running stuff in just one little, one part of Facebook. She's putting stuff out all over the place. She's mixing it up. I would get over there and tell your friends and get on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook at Susquehanna Fishing Tackle, sfttackle.com. And you guys will be hooked up 100%. Right?
Yeah. I mean, she's the queen of all media.
Yep. We don't mess with her. That's for sure. And we got old Nick over here, and he's telling me the same thing. He's saying we got to spread the love, and that's what we've been doing. Nick, you're back from Florida.
I am back.
Man, I'm telling you, bro. What's up with that?
I'll tell you what, it was kind of tough to come back, to be honest.
At least it was like 70 when you came back.
Yeah,
that's true.
For 24 hours.
What was it the first day of practice, you told me?
Oh, I'm telling you, it was cold. It was like in the 30s.
Yeah, see?
Yeah.
Good.
But
I hope you froze your
It
buns
was.
off.
It was. But I'll tell you what, the biggest difference was everything was green.
Right.
Everything was green. It looked nice. But I'm glad to be back.
Right. Good stuff. Well, we're going to get this show going right now, and I have with us, I'm going to bring him up right now. I have the man, the myth, the legend, Derek Hudnall. He is in the house.
Yeah,
What's up, Derek? How you doing?
Guys, the man, the myth, the legend. I normally get that from women, but I'll take it from you guys.
Right.
I love you, baby. My fiance is watching too. I hope she doesn't.
Oh yeah, right. You
I'll be getting a phone call here shortly after the show.
Yeah, well, that's a hole you can dig real quick in this show. I can guarantee you that much. So you got to watch out for that. And also from St. Croix Factory is our man, Ryan Teach.
Gentlemen.
How are you, Ryan? What is going on, buddy?
Hello, Ryan. Welcome.
Legend.
Hey, I want to say hi to Annie as well at home. So.
Right on. Yeah. So, man, it's really great you guys stopped in. And I know Ryan, or Derek, you're probably resting up from a long run at it for a while. You've been traveling all over the place.
Yes, a beating.
Yeah.
In more than one way, a beating.
Yeah,
man. We just got back from Florida. We had the first two Elite Series events down there.
Yep.
Stayed a few extra days and got some really cool content that the world is going to see for St. Croix rods. One of our great, one of the people that we've grown to love and do a lot of work with is Joe Baylog with Millennium Productions
cool.
down there. Had a great time with him, and man, you just can't beat for
it. When did he move down there? He moved down there recently, didn't he?
No, it's been a few years.
It hasn't been a few
It
years.
has, but he's still holding on to that accent. And I let him have it the other day too. He's still holding on to that accent. I think it's more of a pride thing,
Right. Well, eventually, you know what? Eventually it gets you. It'll get him eventually. That's for sure.
That's right.
Well, we got a lot of great listeners and watchers watching the show and listening to the show, and they're really excited for the show tonight. So, one of the things that we always talk about here in the shop, we always talk about rods and graphite and tapers and actions and rod for this or rod for that. So we thought it would be really cool to kind of get into what it takes to build a rod, what it takes to design a rod, from both aspects, from Ryan's aspect and your aspect, to really see how the whole process is, and then break down all the stuff, right, George?
Yeah, I mean, the technology that has grown. We've been St. Croix dealers for 30 plus years.
Yeah.
And we've gone from the days of premieres
being like the deal,
and legends,
and then Legend came on,
to 8 to 10 different models now with every imaginable.
And people like Ryan,
taper and power and purpose built, it's just gone to the moon.
Yeah, and guys like Ryan, he doesn't sleep at night. I could just see him wake up in a cold sweat. I'm gonna name something GRT.
Oh man.
Or ART or whatever.
They have that.
I know they got it all, man. It's like I'm gonna come up with something.
Well,
really
I think that's some of the stuff that's really hard to tell in the story of the rod. It's really hard to because you can't really see it per se. People understand the anglers today are so much advanced in their education and knowledge on rods, but it's so hard to relate that story of that that integrated poly curve technology. That's why we brought you on tonight, because we're going to drill you a little bit.
All right.
So that you can tell that story a little bit, so that our viewers who have a grip on it can really get a hold of it.
Got it. Yeah, guys. So I want to give credit where credit's due. That when you bring out a rod series, it's more than a group of engineers or myself or the other guys up at St. Croix and Park Falls. It takes people like Derek. It takes people like our sales team that are talking to you guys that have been rod dealers for 30 plus years, because, you're going to identify opportunities. You're going to tell us, hey, you guys can improve on this, go do better. So we work on a 24-month product development cycle. So it takes us about 24 months from concept to reality to bring all this together. But then you got to test them. And George, you hit it on the head right there. It's hard with a rod because a lot of that stuff happens internally.
Right.
But really, guys, I can't stress enough. Derek is such a great example of us at St. Croix, because you ever make it to Park Falls, there's a whole bunch of people just like me and Derek that just fish. And that's what we want to do. I mean, at the end of the day, it's about building a better fishing rod for us on the weekends to go out and fish, whether it's we got our muskie guys, we've got bass guys, we've got walleye guys, we've got fly anglers, and that's a
whole panfish series and trout series, and
we got dock shooters, we got dippers, we got panfish guys for sure. Man, those two guys love to argue too. Let me tell you that.
Right.
Well, Ryan, every year at ICAST, we have a meeting with you guys, and last year's meeting, I had scheduled like the last hour and a half of the day, and Derek was there, and the whole design team was there, and the whole sales force was there, and the president was there, and I come strolling up the aisle, and I thought I was at a private, like a show, man. I mean, the new models of Victory were rolled out one by one and explained and demonstrated. There's a lot that goes into doing that.
Yeah, especially with Victory,
yeah.
with Victory too, because Victory, every model was unique. They really were. Every blank pattern is different. It's your 73 MHF versus your 75 MHF is not just 2 inches longer. Everything got played in with that series, and that's what we did with the 24 months prior to with bringing that series. And Victory was a really good springboard for what our anglers are going to see going forward. We learned a lot with SC3 Plus, which is if you're not familiar with SC3 Plus, so
you got to explain that to us here. This is
absolutely
crazy.
We looked at the previous series Avidex, and SC3 has been a fantastic material for us. So SC3 stands for St. Croix 3rd generation carbon fiber. So what our engineering team is doing is we're constantly looking at ways we can make carbon fiber stronger, lighter. So we're looking at resins, we're looking at carbon fiber patterns, we're looking at different ways to lay it up on rods or different ways to ways that we haven't thought about. So Victory has SC3 and it has SC6. SC3 has been around forever. It's right. Mojo Bass, a ton of series use SC3, but SC6 was actually a mistake. So SC5 is our highest level of carbon fiber, which you'll find in Legend Extreme. But SC6 was developed to be the next predecessor of all. It was going to be the carbon fiber of all, but it's actually developed as a mistake because when we built a rod out of it and went and fished terrible. It was bad juju to fish. It's really light, but it's really rigid. And if for an absolute broomstick, it worked just fine, but it wasn't a fishy material. So we kind of back shelved it or back burnered it for a while. And then prior to, even coming up with the idea of Victory, it was like, well, how do we use this material? Well, okay, can we lay it up in a pattern sequence to build a rod out of? Can we take other material out and put SC6 in and replace it and then go fish with it? And that's really what SC3 Plus is. It's taking SC3, that was a material we had around for a long time, that's really very fishy, and it's got a lot of flexual strength to it. And it's finding out in that blank where we can take out pieces of SC3 and put in SC6. That's really rigid, and rigid material brings vibration. Vibration to anglers is feeling the bottom, it's feeling that transition between rock and sand when you got to fit that transition line, or feeling bites.
Yeah, that's the true sensitivity.
That's sensitivity.
A lot of people who come in the store don't understand sensitivity. They're like, I want to buy a rod with a real sensitive tip, and you show them, and they're like, oh, that's too stiff. I need more sensitivity. It's like, well, you got to really explain to them what that's all about. Vibration is all about.
Absolutely. Now, ice anglers really understand that, because that's visual sensitivity, is watching that tip load when that fish grabs it. That's visual. You can see that strike happen. But
what's that?
Watching,
what's ice? What's ice angling?
Oh, what's ice fishing? Come on, George. Oh man,
here's what I do with my ice. I put my ice in my bourbon. That's what I do with my.
The only ice I know is in the cup.
This is the only thing ice is good for. Is in here.
Man. You got it. Yeah, it's what we do up here in the north to. I don't want to say pass the time, but it keeps us occupied.
So you get to that 1 month of summer. Huh?
I think it gives you sanity.
It keeps our fish nice and dumb too, because they forget all about us during the wintertime. And then you come back at them, they're ready to go.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Ryan, I would imagine that in that process of developing the SC3 Plus, that's where guys like Derek come in. You probably sent him boxes and bundles of rods.
Yep.
And turned him loose on one of them target-rich environments down there to just, attack.
Exactly. Derek is a part of our analytical pro team. Now, what is our analytical pro team? It's a group of guys and gals that we've identified that are originally part of our pro staff that just have this unique ability to be really blunt and really honest with us. And then they have the ability to think outside the box and tell us, okay, this rod needs to bend here. Hey guys, you need to build a 7'3" rod in this length, power, and action. Also, the major benefit of a person like Derek is he's fishing. He's just constantly fishing, which is fantastic. And there's no better test than to let the rods bang around the rod box. Or Derek's also in Louisiana, and it's a great test sending a rod from Wisconsin to Louisiana and see if it makes it there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, UPS.
Yeah, in one
There you
piece,
go.
right?
We love you, UPS.
Exactly. But
You know,
you got to rely on people like Derek. We have a number of anglers on our analytical pro team in all different species categories, from salt, surf, all the way to bass, all the way to panfish, trout guys. But the one common bond is that they're anglers and they fish a lot. You have to fish. Go out and use it.
So Derek,
yeah.
when you get that bundle of rods and it's early in the process, what are you doing?
I'm fishing with them.
Yeah.
I can't wait. Just to go back. Okay, first off, there is a reason why Wisconsin has the highest drunken rate per capita in the nation. I'm just saying there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
But let me before we go, but let me back up a little bit. So, you alluded to when you first started off, all of a sudden there's just all these RMPs and LTCs and there's this bin and this power. But I'm going to tell you guys what I tell everybody. If everybody liked the same thing, there'd be only one. Right. And that is a telltale truth sign, and especially in rods. And I'm going to kind of, just for the people that's watching that really don't understand what SE3 and SE6 looks. A lot of guys don't know that. I'm going to make it very simple. Lightness equals sensitivity. The higher grade the carbon is on a rod, the lighter the rod is. So when you put you put a rod like a Legend Extreme in your hand, you're like, whoa, how do they do this? A rod is constructed of carbon, and then it has what's a rebarb, rebarb in concrete. There's carbon fiber strands in that material, and that's what holds it all together. And because that higher grade of carbon is lighter, they don't need as much to make the rod strong and durable. So there's two things. There's lightness and there's energy transfer. Both are kind of one and the same. So you look at a Legend Extreme, and it's the highest grade carbon that they have, along with carbon fiber guides to the all the way down to the reel seat, which is proprietary to St. Croix. The energy transfer is insane in that rod, and there's a reason for that. So lightness equals sensitivity, plus the energy transfer. Everything is immediate, and it's really hard to explain that. We have a rod that's $640 at Legend Extremes. It's hard to sell that to people unless you put it in your hands. If you can afford that, once you fish with it, you're not going to want to fish with anything else. Sure. So then we come out with a series like Victory, something that we have all been very, very proud of since the inception. Since Teach and I talked about it like 3 years ago at the Classic, and they got a rod and a price point to where anybody can afford, but you're going to have a lot of the same advantages on the water that you would with the Legend Extreme. Maybe not quite to that level, but you kind of get the feel of where this technology and the brain power behind this, which is Ryan Teach. And you guys, you hear him talk about the SC, whatever, and it doesn't make sense in your mind. But guys, people like Teach, y'all have no idea. You like Teach, and he's gonna slap me next time I see him. But it's like that, his mind and where, he hasn't been in that position very long with St. Croix, guys, but his mind and where this industry is, he's about 2 or 3 steps of every other brand in the industry, and that's where it's going. And all of this technology that St. Croix is putting into these rods is proprietary to St. Croix, so nobody can match it. People don't realize that if you cut a blank right down the middle, there's a hollow spot in there. That's a mandrel makes a rod. That mandrel that St. Croix uses is proprietary. It is completely slick and completely round all the way down. There's no weak spots. You take other competitors' rods and you cut them down. There's rigid. There's weak spots in it, and that's what causes breakages. That's the part that people don't realize that goes into a rod like St. Croix. Yes, St. Croix is the biggest rod manufacturer in North America, but at the same time, there's a reason for that. And there's a reason behind the technology. And once you put that rod in your hand, you don't want to cut the rod down the middle. Right. You don't want to know what makes it that light and that sensitive. But when you when you see the work and the development that gets put into these rods, I mean, heck, I spent a week with Ryan Teach and the whole St. Croix team in El Salto, Mexico. I mean,
I like
saw
that place.
oh my goodness. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know.
I like that pond.
Yeah. I mean, that pond has a few in them, but I'm gonna tell you what, it's got a few fish in them, but we had no electronics, no anything. So it just brought us back to instinctive. We had a great time over there, but they put so much into the research and development of the rod, and every single person from Ryan Teach to Jesse Simpkins, our marketing director, to Savannah, our pro staff manager, to Gavin. These are people you've never heard of. That's the engineer behind this.
Don't forget Jason Bruner.
Oh yes. And they have one thing in common is they live and breed and eat the brand. They loved it. They love their job. They are all absolute fish heads. They love the fish.
Yeah.
They love the brand. They love the industry. And they all understand that we're all different.
That's cool because, we got me and George over the years have got a chance to hang out with all you guys, at different times. And that's the first thing that comes that you can notice right away is the passion that St. Croix, all the St. Croix employees have. I mean, it's amazing how, crazy they are about.
Well, and it shows in the product.
Oh yeah.
So, let's jump back on these rods for a minute or two, because we're going to need a couple definitions.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, I'm looking at a rack full of Victories back here.
Uh-huh.
It's a Victory rod rack, pretty cool looking rack, and it's stacked full, and there's all kinds of hang tags on them. It says things like ART and IPC, and again, we do a fairly good job of telling the story because you guys took the time to educate us.
Mhm.
But if you could take a minute or two, Ryan, and explain like, let's start with like ART, Advanced
Absolutely.
Reinforcing Technology. What exactly, in a fisherman's terms would that be?
That's what makes a rod super strong in areas that it has a tendency to be really weak. So, for example, we can, through derrick and testing on the water or through simulated stress testing, we can identify on those rods places where it could potentially be weak to the angler. And what ART is ART is like a cousin to SC6. It's another supplemental carbon fiber material that you can put in the blank where you recognize that it's going to be weak, and it keeps that rod from breaking.
So I remember years ago at St. Croix, there was actually little like laminated sheets of ART that would get sent out to the dealers to use to demonstrate. And it looked like it was thinner than a human hair, and you could the sheet, you could look through it. And as we understand it, that is basically wrapped with that grain per se at a right axis to the blank.
Perfect.
In that tip section, correct?
You got it. That's fantastic. That's a heck of a memory. But yep, the carbon fibers can run this way, but your blank is running this way, and ART wraps around it that direction. You got it. Yeah,
so that's how we can watch Derek last year on the St. Johns River with a 7.3 medium extra fast spinning rod, jacking hogs out of a pad field.
Yeah.
And the tip section of the rod looked like it had a hinge on it.
Whatever possessed you?
The rod is
to do
bending
that?
at a 90-degree angle, 6 inches from the tip, and not breaking.
I mean, what possesses a guy to honestly? I mean, really, to say
a tough bite.
I'm gonna fish a pad field with a freaking spinning rod.
By any means necessary to fill a live well, I'm sure.
Well, that's what I want to know.
Well, my question to you is, any questions?
I mean, I liked the
we
fact
talked about that for a while.
That was kind of like that was before the Victory launch, and the savvy bass heads that come into SFT. They all mentioned the rod that you were fishing with.
Well, that was actually a funny story. I'm going to give you guys some behind the scenes stuff about that. We've been working on Victory for like 24 months before that. Everybody was extremely pumped about it. And we were like literally a week from launching that series. And day one, I did not have a camera with me, but I had, 23.5 pounds, and I had a 9.8, which was the big fish of the tournament. And I had to make a phone call to Jesse Simpkins, which is he's the guy that cracks the whip, the marketing director. And I said, Jesse, I got some good and bad news for you. He was like, I didn't watch the weigh-in today. I said, well, I'm in second right now. He said, oh, good job. I said, bad news. I'm going to have a camera with me, and I'm going to have the new Victory 7.3 MLXF on it, and I know you don't want to release it. And he said, do what you got to do. Do what you got to do.
Well, a lot of people picked up on that.
Oh yeah, they did.
And actually, and it all worked out great. And I'm so proud that, that was like the fastest selling new model of any rod in St. Croix history, that 7.3 MLXF. And that thing is just, it is a $200 price point rod.
That's a badass rod.
I have the privilege to fish any rod that I want. I can order all Legend Extremes if I want, but I still use that rod because I am a big wacky worm guy. I've won more money on that rod than anything else in my arsenal, but I still choose the Victory. And it was a great time. Everybody saw it. And, I have no shame. I can pick up a 7.3 spinning rod and 15
It was
pound
awesome.
speed. And 10-pound fluorocarbon, that stuff is extremely strong. And
we stream every second of the tournament in the shop here on the TV. And, everybody was talking about that 7-pounder that you had on that spinning rod. And I was looking at the taper and the bend up at the extra fast taper. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
But my question to you is a little off topic, but, before we jump in and grab another little techno bite, I know you were wacky rigging hard in that tournament, and it really opened my eyes up to finesse fishing and that kind of cover. What's like your standard on that rod? Now we get it; it's that 7.3 medium light extra fast taper. But what would be like your standard setup, and how would you go about a typical wacky rig for that shallow water cover on that rod?
The entire setup from front to start. Number one, that's 7.3. When we came together a couple of years ago, most rod manufacturers stop at a 7-foot or a 7.1, and they don't pick up to like a 7.4. So that tweener size, the 7.1s to the 7.3s, is kind of what a lot we're missing. So we said we need those. That 7.3, I think, is probably the most ideal rod length for most anglers out there, because let's face it, guy who's 5'5" versus a guy who's 6'5" or 7 foot, the leverage points are going to be different. That 7.3 is right in the middle. So a wacky worm setup, that 7.3 MLXF Victory is insane. I put that on a Shimano 2500 Stradic C14, which they don't even make anymore. I don't care. I'm not affiliated with any real manufacturers, and I don't want to be. I pair that with like a 16-pound Sunline. A Sage Eye braid with a 10-pound fluorocarbon leader.
Okay.
And I'm gonna tell you guys, and people think that might be light tackle. It's a size 2 Gamakatsu stinger hook with a little titanium weed guards. That's the stickiest hook on the planet. There are guys that are affiliated on tour with other hook manufacturers that use that hook just because it's so. But you pair those two together, guys, 10-pound fluorocarbon to that 15-pound or 16-pound braided leader. You can't break that stuff. If you tie the right knot, that stuff will not break, and you would be. I caught a 9.8 on it on day one.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah.
On that setup, and once that fish was hooked and it came up, I almost soiled my pants when I saw it. But I saw where that fish was hooked, and I knew there was no chance that fish was coming off. But you need that rod has a really good load point and backbone, because I always say, the most important part of a fish catch is hook point penetration. That starts with the rod and having the right rod with the right load point. And people, when they're finesse fish, they try to go too light too many times, and they're just simply not getting a hook in the fish. But that setup with that line setup and that rod, that is the perfect wacky worm setup. And you guys probably won't believe it, but 5 years ago, I'd never thrown a wacky worm. Like, I didn't own a spinning rods 5 years ago, but I had to find a niche, and I made myself become better at that. And, the rest is history, but man, that Victory 7.3, MLXF and the spinning rod, and the Victory 7.3 MHF and the casting rod, the two most versatile rods on the planet, and at a price point that everybody can afford.
So
the price point's right.
And that's the thing. The buzz on the street, Ryan, is that, every now and then you come across a rod that is, you're getting a lot for the value. You know what I mean? In other words, you're buying a rod for, the $200 price point range, and you're getting a rod that really is way up there in the category. And that's the buzz on the Victory rod, is that you're buying a $200 rod, but you're getting a rod that feels like these really super awesome and acts like he's super awesome high-end high priced rods.
Yeah.
So for us, I mean, is that what you guys were going after in that price point and all that technology, or was it did it just happen?
Well, guys, one of the my favorite parts was I'm an angler first, okay, and one of the funnest parts of that launch was watching that rod get compared to rods 3 times its price point, because everybody's like, yeah, they're going after X, Y, and Z with this rod. No, we did exactly what Derek has just said. We wanted to build the best rod with the technologies that we were ready to release that was durable and could flat out go fish. And we picked that price point because that was a price point that we hadn't played at in the market. We had Avid X at that point in time that had been retired, but really we looked at it and we saw a price point that we wanted to go at. And that's really what we delivered from. We wanted to build it in Park Falls and we want to put a 15-year warranty behind it too. That's the other thing.
Amazing.
So it's, it was fun. It was really fun to watch that rod get released. There was some scampering going on when Derek was doing well, both because we were happy for him. And the other thing is too, is one of our other Elite Series guys, Bob Downey, ran into a very similar situation with the 7.6 HMF punch-in. And I don't remember the tournament it was at, but
Gunnersville.
Yeah, he was punching with the 7.6 and had a camera guy in his boat. And it's all fun. I tell you what, at the end of the day, it's so fun to see the buzz of all these new people and experienced people interested in fishing right now. It's fantastic.
Oh, it's just wonderful for the industry. It's wonderful for the sport. Everything about it's great. So George, hit us with another one of these crazy things.
I want to get another little bit of knowledge out of Ryan, and then maybe relate that to one of Derek's techniques, because I got some questions here.
Yeah.
So IPC. Now, IPC, you're going to have a little bit more of a explanation process because you literally can't see it.
Nope, can't see it. You can feel it sometimes, but you can't.
And we try to explain it, and we're just basically reciting what you guys told us to say. To be honest with you,
no, that's all right.
And we fish the rods, and you can tell the difference, particularly in the cast.
Yeah.
But can you just kind of, because everybody looks at the tag and they're like, oh, hey, IPC.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's a beer you should go order or something.
Yeah, right. That's a Wisconsin beer. I know it is. I know it is.
I'll take the IPC.
I know he come up with it because it was a Wisconsin beer brand or something.
Which, by the way, before you get started there, just so y'all don't think we're a bunch of raving alcoholics here.
Yeah.
All the bourbon lined up here is in honor of Derek because he's got a reputation as knowing his bourbon.
Yeah, look at that rack back.
And I mean, we don't really have the
the
selection or the knowledge, but we thought we'd have a bourbon in his honor, and all the reps and stuff that come to business here always bring us a bottle or two.
Yeah.
So we got a couple here. We got a Michter's Rye, from our good buddy from High Seas, Sean. We got a Jefferson's here that took a hard hit one night. There's a touch of that left. We got a local one here, Derek. If you ever get up when you're traveling on your northern swing, if you're getting road weary and thirsty, you can stop up here. We got a little kettle works up the road that is called the Tattered Flag, veteran owned, and they do a little small batch
nice
bourbon. And then of course we got the old
standby.
We got the old when in Rome.
It's kind of like just, yeah, we're not just
falling down drunk here. This is in honor of Derek coming on board because he's a connoisseur of fine whiskeys.
I like my bourbons. I do, and I enjoy more. And I have a YouTube series, and I call it Bourbon and Bass. And I'm more of like a history nerd when it comes to stuff like that. I love bourbons that tell a story. And I love collecting them. I love the history behind them. I love just talking about them.
I love it, man. I love the whole bourbon and bass thing. And I know one of your big sponsors, Missile Baits, Mr. Johnny Cruz. He's a bourbon guy too.
Yes, he is. John is a very good friend of mine. We've been traveling together for 4 years, and yes, he loves the bourbon too. He always looks forward to anything special that I might be bringing. So
yeah, I've had the opportunity to enjoy a finger or two of bourbon with him every now and again, and it's quite the experience.
So I'll share one with y'all guys real quick. Everybody's familiar with Blanton's, but this is a very special one. This is Blanton's Gold, only available in the UK.
What?
I actually paid more in shipping than I did for the actual bottle. It was actually a buddy of mine. It took like 6 months to get it. If I win the Classic or AOI, I might open it, but other than that, it's going to stay up there.
Just put it on the shelf, right?
Oh, that's cool.
That's a good get right there, Ryan.
Yeah,
that's a
absolutely.
good get.
Yeah.
So let's jump back into the fray here. And let's get down to this IPC.
Yep.
IPC. What is this all about?
So our rods are built, the skeletal structure of our rods during the manufacturing process, and it obviously gets pulled out, is the mandrel. And the IPC is our mandrel. It stands for Integrated Polycurve. And Jason Brunner, we call him the rod father internally. Him and Gavin Falk, which is another engineer. Jason Brunner was the guy that really created IPC, and it's a mandrel technology that's unique and only to us. He built the software to engineer IPC mandrels. And what we can do with IPC mandrels is most mandrels are on a step system. Okay, so you can imagine this as you're taking a step, outside, you're walking down to your driveway or something. There's a step, and as you have bigger steps up here and smaller steps, and that's how you make a rod that gets bigger to smaller. Okay, with IPC, there are no steps, so there's no overlap at all in our rods. They're one solid, just natural progression. So we can identify, again, areas that we need it to flex differently at, or we can identify areas that it needs to have more material due to strength. We can change that flexual pattern as the rod goes down. The challenge for us, and actually the good thing that protects the the intellectual property that's behind it, is that there's only like 2 places in the entire world that can machine these for us, because they're really difficult to machine. They take a lot of time. But what it equates to the angler is it makes the rod lighter. We can, again, get very specific in how we want that rod to cast and to act when it's under load. And then it makes the rod smoother over time. And you can even compare that inside our own portfolio. You can take an SC2 rod, like a Premier or Triumph that's not built with IPC. You can play it against a Mojo or a Victory, for example, and you can tell the difference when you cast. And it's just a different casting experience. A little smoother, you can be more accurate. But it's one of the backbones of St. Croix is the IPC mandrel.
That's a great explanation. I mean, so not to get too crazy, but so you don't have to like add in like little panels of carbon at each one of those taper points.
Nope.
It's just the mandrel does all the work.
Yep. The only thing we would add in is during testing or during flexual strength testing, we add a little bit of ART in, and that's not carbon fiber like a chunk, so to say. It's a different piece of reinforcing technology. And George, you hit it right on the head. It just goes the opposite way around the plank. So
that's awesome.
Yep.
Beautiful.
So we got the ART, we got the IPC. Sounds like a rap song forming up here, man. You know me.
Well, what's the other one? There's a new one.
There's a guy here that can probably tell us if there's another one.
Is there another 3-digit
technology?
Another technology. Well, we released Veil in our saltwater rods last year at ICAST, and that one's really neat. And that's an exterior. So ART works as like an interior reinforcing technology. Veil is purely outside. So what Veil does is Veil protects against the rod against exterior impacts. So like a pyramid sinker banging against the rod, or falling down on a rock and having to put your rod out, or shutting a topper on a truck on it or something like that. That's what Veil does. That's not in our freshwater rods yet.
Yeah.
And
so
also,
well, go ahead there, Derek.
Well, I was just saying also, I've seen a few comments. Don Cochin, did one of them. He asked if the Victory line was ever going to come out in the saltwater series. But guys, they can coagulate. I mean, the saltwater series because a lot of the saltwater guys like more a shorter load tip or a little stronger rod when it comes to saltwater. But guys, the Victory series, I don't know if anybody, but I mean, I had the honor of fishing the Bassmaster Redfish Cup in November of last year. A fantastic event. Heck, me and my partner almost won it, and I was throwing a 7.3 Victory MHF with a chatterbait and smashing some big old redfish on it. So there's no reason to make like a victory line. I mean, you can absolutely use that for redfish because that 7.3 casting MHF is so versatile. I had 3 days alive on TV with that rod catching those big redfish. So that, the victory line, there's no reason why it can't become a saltwater rod in your arsenal for sure.
I watched that, man. I just about
so much fun.
packed up my boat and drove to Port Aransas and bought a house.
No.
That was so much fun. I wouldn't call Port Aransas South Louisiana and Venice.
No,
It's
no.
It's all right.
Well, we have a ton of, to your point there, Derek, we have a ton in this, and where we're located, we're really close to the Chesapeake Bay and the Delaware Bay. And particularly on the Chesapeake Bay, we have a lot of like schoolie size striped bass. We have a lot of like more shallow water flounder fishing. And we use primarily bass tackle for that. To your point exactly. I mean, a medium heavy like rod that you would fish a chatterbait on, or a heavy rod that you would flip a jig on, is more than adequate for the majority of that shallow water fishing like that. It's only when you start getting into the deep water, the heavy tides, where you got to start dropping big weight, that you need to even abandon that strategy. So yeah, to the gentleman that put on there, there are a lot of victories depending on what you're doing that will cross over.
The biggest thing to remember in saltwater fishing is, just don't bring a tricycle to a NASCAR race, if you know what I'm saying. Just
don't bring a knife to a gunfight.
Make sure you got some meat in your back pocket. If you know what I mean. So yeah.
And I have a question for you, Derek, that I think is going to really speak to a lot of our viewers. Our kind of target audience that we get every week is like from lakes that like Lake Champlain and the Finger Lakes, like Cayuga, down into the upper Chesapeake Bay and the Potomac River, places that you're familiar with, type of fishing that you're familiar with. We're fishing a lot of grass. We're doing a lot of pitching and flipping. So what would be like your rod choice for that type of pitching and flipping, clump milfoil, a little thicker in the summer? And what would be like your rod choice? And maybe you could possibly drop us a nugget on a bait or two for that spawn period in those bodies of water where we're getting into that fresh growth of grass.
Well, if you're going to go heavy, if you're really like a Lake Cayuga's got really heavy grass, we fished it a couple of years ago. You go up to that 7.4 heavy fast. Either the Victory Series or that 7.4 heavy fast with that Legend Extreme is put it in your hand and see what I'm talking about. Because when I'm flipping 50 to 60 pound braided line, and I'm punching that heavy grass, or I'm throwing a bigger bait through there, it's all about, that is a reaction bite. People don't necessarily, kind of correlate heavy punching, either heavy baits or in there to reaction bite like they would like a jerk bait, because, 99% of the time when you flip it in there and it's going down, the fish grabs it. And you've got to be able to feel that bite, because if you don't, by the time you pick up and you realize he's on there, he's like underneath the boat and swimming back behind you. But that 7.4 heavy fast, it comes in the Victory line. If that's more of your price point, but if you can afford it, go Legend Extreme on that, because that rod, the sensitivity with that blank is insane. And again, people don't realize you use less material. It's smaller diameter size. And the one thing I don't like, I'm not a big guy. I have small hands, so I don't like a big diameter rod. And that Legend Extreme and the Victory takes away from some of that. And Cayuga, 3 years ago, you talk about a big fish for up there in Cayuga and spawning, and I don't know if I fished a spawning, but I caught an 8-1 there in Cayuga in the Bassmaster event. Season, which still holds. It's the biggest bass ever weighed in Bassmaster history in the state of Florida. But I caught it on a chatterbait, stroking it out of that milfoil with a 7.3 MHF. Wow. I caught my personal best 3 weeks ago before we started St. John's. I caught an 11.6 in Florida.
I saw that. I saw that on your Facebook. That was a friggin' pig.
I was stroking a half-ounce, bladed jig out of hydrilla, that 7.3 MHF. You guys, I sound like a broken record, but there's reason why I have 10 of those, that rod model. They nailed it. I use it for so many things. And I'm not trying to beat a dead horse. I'm just telling you what makes me better and what I feel better at. But that rod is insane, and I flip with it. If I go a little heavier, I will go up to the 7.4 heavy fast, either Victory or, like I said, if you can afford it, that Legend Extreme is the way to go. But yeah, I love upstate New York. Anywhere that I go, from Lake Champlain to Cayuga. Because those fish, y'all's fish just eat over there. Because all of y'all are drunk during the wintertime when everything's froze over. So and so when they do get messed with, y'all all got headaches. So it's at least another 2 months before they actually got caught. So, I love upstate New York. It's just those fish are pristine. And
all braid?
Not all. No, not all braid. If I'm flipping heavy grass, yes, I'll go to braid. But, I like a lipless or like a bladed jig, like I was talking about. I'm 16-pound sunline shooter. That's 7.3, MHF, especially with a heavy chatterbait, and I'm really trying to stroke it out. I would give you another model, but you guys have not seen it released yet, and I would lose my partnership with St. Croix. I told you that one because I just recently put it in my hand, but we're always working to be better, right? That's coming soon if I'm going down to like a normal 3/8 ounce chatterbait, but that one's coming. Especially for that, man. You didn't see it. You just saw color. Saw color. Yes. But it's just always
had it in our hands.
We're just always. I mean, the brain power behind that. I mean, they're like, I'm here. They're thinking about 2026. You're like, holy cow! 2026. I mean, it's kind of like the technology or like the technology industry. With the graphs and stuff. I mean, it's just a rat race to see who can build the better mousetrap. But I've been fortunate to be behind the right people because they're leaps and bounds ahead of where I thought a rod could ever be at this point, and it's just not going to stop. It's just going to get
awesome. Yeah. All right, hey Ryan, so that technology of the SC3 the SC6
Yep.
SV, was it SV?
What are you talking about?
The graphite
on the Victory?
Yeah.
Stop calling graphite.
Yeah. Anyway, that technology where you're kind of blending and using that, that's going forward a little bit now, isn't it? Isn't there things like already in the works on some stuff?
Yeah, there is. Tune in.
Watch it, fellas.
I'm gonna watch it. Keep an eye on everybody's social media platform, but there'll be some interesting stuff that'll come out around the Bassmasters Classic
next week.
Yep, you got it. So SC3 Plus has been a fantastic material for Victory. We do have another series of rods that'll be released at the Classic. Two big events in bass fishing. You got the Classic and you got Red Crest in Tulsa this year. There's going to be activity with that new rod series at both of those events. So there is a next generation of material coming with a blue series of rods. But there's also, we've got a line of fiberglass rods that we're really proud of, and that's Legend Glass and Mojo Glass as well. But I will say that the next generation of material that we bring out, there's going to be a carbon, and there's also going to be a next generation of glass rods. And I am probably more jacked up about those three models than I have been in a long time. It's been a long time coming in that material. So still, Legend Glass isn't going anywhere. Still a great rod.
I love that. Yeah.
We've learned so much from that rod, and we've learned so much from Victory. It really shows in what's coming next from St. Croix.
Wow, excited.
So, Derek, I can't let you off the hook just that easy because I know we're looking for some when you dig down in that Skeeter up on Cayuga or Champlain and you're putting a bait on that flipping setup, what's that?
What is it?
What's that spawn time bait going to be?
Missile baits, D-bomb, or the 48. That's the wacky worm that I was throwing.
So you're going to flip the D-bomb. Oh,
yes, that's my flipping bait. And the bait that I did that you saw me at St. John's River and then in South Carolina where we're going again. I'm drawing a blank. But
Hartwell.
Yeah, no, we're not in Hartwell. We went at Santee Cooper.
Santee Cooper.
I had another good finish that year on there. But I that 7.3 MLXF paired with that Missile Baits 48. That's their style of a Senko style bait. It's called a 48 because it's 4.8 inches long. It's a little shorter, but it's fatter on either end. I wish I had one here. I'd show you. And it enhances the wobble as it falls. And it's unique. It's different. I love to show fish things that they've never seen before.
I'm going to grab one for you quick.
Or you go ahead and grab one for us.
Yeah.
So, that thing has put that setup has done very, very well for me in the last 3 years. But I'm going to flip a Missile Baits D-bomb. Teach knows that. Him and I have flipped many a D-bombs in the boats together in the last 3 years. And that little 48 is what I wacky fish with. There's never an event, a time, a place, any time of the year where I do not have that set up in my boat. It's just, man, it just catches fish when nothing else can. If you think about it, and it takes patience, and I have no patience. But it's like at the dinner table. You get full, and Grandma puts a plate of hot cookies on the table.
Yep.
You ain't hungry, but eventually you're gonna eat one. I mean, that's kind of a wacky setup. That bait just wobbles in front of his face, and he can't stand it. He's just got to do up.
There you go.
Now you're speaking.
There's the 48.
Yep, talk dirty to me. Yes, indeed. That's one of those. You see how either side is a little fatter than the middle.
Yeah, middle section's a little smaller.
Right. That enhances the wobble, and I don't hook that thing straight through. Hook it long ways, and put that hook long ways. What that does is that prohibits. If you guys wacky fish, you'll notice if you flip it out there and you're really skipping that thing, a tail will roll over and grab the hook, and that'll hurt you. So if you hook it long ways like that, that prohibits either side of that bait from coming back. Getting on the hook.
Interesting.
Like Nico style.
Yeah, I mean that's how you would hook it for a Neko rig, but I do it like that for a wacky worm, and that keeps that from happening. Because if you hook it long ways or you put an O-ring on it, if you're skipping it a lot like I do, because that there are places I can put that bait where you can't put anything else. Right. I like to get it way up underneath cypress limbs and anywhere those fish can be. And if you do that a lot, you'll bring it back, and all of a sudden one side of it's hooked on top of the hook. And I've had situations where I've lost fish way back when I'm still learning, but even learning then, and it's like I got to change something. And actually, John Cruz was like, "Dude, hook it this way; it won't happen." And I said, "How about that?"
Yeah.
Are you using a ring to rig it long ways, or you're going through the plastic?
I'm going straight through the plastic, but I'm rigging it.
I got you.
Horizontal with the worm.
I got you.
And it prohibits that worm from rolling over. But that setup is it's insane. And that 48 is, and people, yes, Missile's one of my sponsors and my partners, and John's one of my best friends. But there was a time where I had no idea who John Cruz was, or there was a time I had no idea who Ryan Teach and Jesse Simpkins was. But I've always been a fan of them. And by the way, bourbon size, if y'all know Jesse Simpkins, you like my collection, you should go in that man's basement. He's got some stuff that, I would slap my mama over.
Well, if you say that, it must be pretty special. That's for sure.
It is.
I
haven't seen it.
He's got some stuff you can run cars on.
Yeah, he does.
So Derek, you came on the Elite Series tour through the Central Opens in 2018.
That's correct.
And right away qualified for the 2019 Bassmaster Classic. How was that experience? And was it a boyhood dream, or was this something? That's what you always hear. Oh, it was my boyhood dream. But I mean, what did it mean to you?
Man, I'm a dreamer. I grew up. I know my dad was a fish head. I mean, I grew up tournament fishing. So, my oldest memory was I was 9 years old, sitting on the couch watching the Bassmaster Classic and watching Hank Parker hold up that trophy at the St. James River. It was in 1989. I was 9 years old, and I've always looked at that moment and said, that's where I want to be. And I grew up with my dad, and my dad had multiple invites to fish at the time, the BASS Top 150. And he had to turn it down because he was I did not grow up with a family with money. He had to turn it down because he was the breadwinner in our family, and he didn't know anything about sponsorship, and he brought the money in, and which was not much. And, that was painful watching him, have to turn that down. And I always said that, I started focusing on the business end of it first, because everybody thinks it's fine. Yeah, go right. You got top 5 and all the opens put together, and you got an invite. They shake your hand and say, "Congratulations, we need $43,000.
Yeah, exactly.
Sponsors do not knock down your door once you make it. You have to build your brand, build your value, and become valuable yourself. Social media, on stage, on camera, I will never turn down a media invite. I don't care if somebody started a podcast and his mom is the only one that's watching. If somebody asks me, I'm going to get it. And if anybody's out there that wants to take that step, you better start working on your brand and your value right now, because it's not going to get any easier down the road. It's something you've got to do yourself. So yes, to answer your question, I've always been a dreamer, and there's nothing in this world I'd rather do. It is a grind. I spend a lot of time away from home, a lot of time away from the family, but you know, I'm truly blessed to do what I do and have the support that I have around me.
Sure.
So, it's awesome.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic.
Well, Ryan, we're big fans of the Legend glass rods. Me and George, we love them to death. So, you know, the next generation, whatever it is, it's coming. You know, we're of course we're going to look forward to that big time. And my whole thing this year is on one of our shows. I don't know if you caught it, but we're talking about what we're going to work on for 2022. And my big thing is I'm going to work hard on crankbaiting. I'm gonna get down and dirty with it. And it's always been my weak spot, and I'm gonna really wear those tournament series out, man. I'm gonna put them to the test.
Well, you got two great options. I mean, you can go Legend glass, Mojo glass, or what I feel is one of the best crankbait rods made by anybody.
Yeah,
and you know I'm a multi-brand guy.
Multi-brand. Plus, he's sponsored by all the electronics companies. Lowrance, Humminbird, and Garmin.
Angler on pro staff for all three electronics companies.
Looks like a victory.
Yeah. So this is a 7.2 medium heavy, moderate fast.
Oh, we call it that.
So
yep.
This rod came to be as an Avid many years ago, and it was you know the early days of top line rod companies creating true graphite crankbait rods with fiberglass tapers. Started with probably the earliest one that ever started it that I know of was probably G. Loomis or the Avid. They were back to back.
I'll join you there.
But what you got is the benefits of graphite as far as sensitivity with the taper of glass. Mm-hmm. So, you know, in crankbait fishing today, we have a lot of options. And, you know, back in the 90s, St. Croix started the old blue Pro Glass rod, which was, correct me if I'm wrong, but that was basically an S glass.
Yep.
A very lightweight glass.
Mm-hmm.
Greatest thing ever.
You know, it ruled in glass rods.
I don't think they were blue, bro. They were brown.
They were blue.
The first ones were brown.
Well, we could probably get a hold of a historian and
Ryan, you been there that long?
But
no, that predates me, but I know we've got them in the museum.
There was blue ones and brown
I got
ones.
the museum in my botel, so I got a few of them. But those rods, you know, were deceiving because the diameter of them was huge, but the weight was slight. Mm-hmm. And then when this whole carbon, you know, graphite carbon crankbait rod war started and that Avid came out, that was it. The medium, heavy, moderate Avid. And then this takes it to the next level. I went and dug this one off the rack because we were sold out of them. We just got some back in stock today. These are fantastic. So for throwing your 0 to 15-foot divers, this bad boy right here gets it done.
Question to Derek. When would you go graphite over, glass?
That's a fantastic question because we get asked every day.
Carbon over glass. Yes. I have a preference. I do not crank with glass simply because of the diameter of the blank. The load. Now you cannot argue the load points of that glass rod. Now the only reason I will use a glass rod, if I'm doing if I'm trying to throw like an 8 or a 10 XD, you know, I will go up to glass for that because the rod diameter size of the rod that I need for that is pretty close. But again, if we all and I have differences of opinion, you know, I do not crank with the glass rod, you know, just simply because I want to be able to feel, you know, and I'm not saying you can't fill it with glass, but the diameter size I have small hands. I really want to be able to put my hand around that thing.
Mm.
So we're all different. Again, I was having a conversation with Stephen Browning in El Salto in Mexico, and he's totally opposite. Jesse Wiggins, he loves the glass for all of us cranking and chatterbait, and we're built differently.
Yeah,
I use the terminology a lot. For any golfers out there, you see Tiger Woods swing a golf club. There's only one person in the world that can swing a golf club like Tiger Woods, and that's him. It's because of the way he's built. And then to translate that, to segue into bass fishing, there's only one person in the world that can throw an 8 or 10 XD for 10 hours a day for 4 days straight. And that's Kevin Van Dam. I mean, he is built for that. So if you're going to try to emulate and use the same rods that he uses or use the same clubs as Tiger Woods, you're going to find yourself in trouble. Because if I tried to throw a 7-11 glass rod with a 10XD, I would be like passing out on the front deck after the fourth cast because I don't have the leverage for that. So you need to find the fit for you, not because your friend says you need to do that or because KVD throws this length of rod or Jesse Wiggins throws it. You need to put the rod in your hand and figure out where that's at because there is a big difference between comfort point and then exhaustion and just with the rod lengths and leverage for how tall you are, how long you are, how long your arms are. And fatigue is a big part of that. You need to find the rod where you can be accurate, make long casts with less fatigue, because if you use a rod that's too long, it's gonna make you tired. So play around with it, guys. Don't listen to your friend next door, the one that throws that. Play around with it. Put all those rods in your hand before you make a decision, because you may find that glass rod is the rod for you. You may find the Victory Series is the rod for you, but just if you have the opportunity, put it in your hands.
We definitely have said that for 30 years.
It's not cut and dried.
It's not cut and dry. And I don't know how people can buy a rod from somebody's recommendation and never touch it. They buy it online or something like that. You got to come and feel them. You got to come to your shop, your local store,
right?
Flip your stuff around. Now, if it's a rod that you know and you're looking for, yeah, you can buy it online. But a lot of this stuff, if you're trying it, you really need to put it in your hand, come in, talk to some of the experts behind the counter and let them let them talk to you about the rods, get them in your hand, feel them with a reel on them. Cause that's what we always do. We always screw a reel on for our customers.
Absolutely.
And,
best way to do it.
Because that makes a difference. Like you said, your hands are smaller. So, you put a reel on that yet. But one real quick question, George, for Ryan is S-Glass. Now, back in the day, I guess the days of David Fritz, he threw that resin riddled e-glass, and it was like this. I mean, I have one. And that's what I cranked with a long. I don't even know how in the hell I did it, but I was like, I'm gonna be like David Fritz because I thought he was a cool dude.
Yeah, it had eyes just big around too. Remember?
And that guy, man,
that's Uncle David.
Yeah, Uncle David. I mean, he's a great guy. We became real good friends with him, and I was like, what is S-Glass?
All right, so guys, I can totally relate. I had e-glass. Rick Clunn, Wright McGill ones that were the like the turquoise. Those were my first impressions of glass rods. I'm like, get the heck out of here.
Right.
Easy change. So the difference between e-glass and S-Glass is that e-glass is a randomization of fibers. So if I'm using my hands to look like fibers, they go like this. They go all over the place. Okay, and you got to use mass to create strength in the rod. S-Glass. S-Glass is a strategic arrangement of fibers. So they pull up like a checkerboard. So you can treat them very similar to carbon fiber. So our rods, you treat the S-Glass like carbon fiber, and you can put them on an IPC mandrel. That's the way we can get those rods where they look. I don't know how many people have come up to me and they're like, those orange rods over there are heavy. I'm like, pick one up. They pick one up. What the heck? They're light.
Ain't that
that's super heavy. Now, I'll put a little teaser out there. You can imagine taking some of that glass and flipping it into carbon fiber and not mixing it together, but taking pieces out of it and being able to put like SC6 or SC4 in there. So you can build a little teaser. It's possible to build a rod that is a hybrid between a carbon fiber and a glass rod and not have it be a composite blend of fibers. It's really tailored to the angler. I mean, whatever you want to fish with, guys, I've said this countless times. in a conversation like this is that we work way more days than we get to fish. You got to enjoy your time on the water. I mean, so fish the brand that you feel comfortable with, fish the rods. It's great to hear, you got a hodgepodge of rods there, George. That's fantastic. Those are fun people to talk to.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, we have a extremely knowledgeable customer base that comes into our store.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys and gals are up on all aspects of the sport, including rod construction. And we have a massive selection of rods here from many, many brands. We literally have, someday we'll get you out here to smallmouth fish on the river, but we literally have an aisle, a double-sided aisle of St. Croix rods. I mean, there's 10 racks. So there's a lot of different models, as you know, but I'm not telling you anything there. But so we wanted to bounce around a little bit. I think, we're running long on the clock here. We promised you guys we wouldn't keep you on this long, but we have one more question for Derek. We don't want to seem greedy, but we crave the knowledge.
Oh yeah.
So the hottest
We're
bait
junkies.
in the country, for the last couple of years is obviously a chatterbait of some sort. And we are constantly talking chatterbait. We can't even have a tackle shop live where we love to talk nuts and bolts without getting into a chatterbait somehow, some way. So, Derek, we had some questions on Jack Henkel, one of our longtime customers and viewers, is asking a great question that sums it up. What victory rod do you like to throw a chatterbait on?
7.3 MHF.
7.3 MHF.
Yeah, I mean it's that goes right. Yeah,
I caught that 11.6 on it 3 weeks ago. I mean, gosh, and guys, that's a big favorite of mine for especially this time of the year, and a lipless too. That Spro Aruku Chat 75. I've caught some giants on that thing, and I love to rip that thing out of vegetation. I'll throw it on that 7.3 MHF. People think, oh, a lipless crankbait, that's too heavy. But when I'm ripping it out of vegetation, again, don't bring a tricycle to a NASCAR race, because if you try to throw a big lipless, something like that, and people are going to be more towards, I'll pick up the Victory 7.2 medium heavy moderate. That you got to be tricycle. You need some meat in that thing, and then that's plenty enough. It's not too stiff for that thing, and reaction bite is key. Whether it be a chatterbait or lipless this time of the year, bury it in something. Like, it's just like a crankbait. If you're not banging that thing off of rocks or hard cover, you're just not going to get the bites. I don't care if it's riprap or wood. I'm trying to drive that bait into whatever I can, because when it deflects off of it, that's when you're going to get the big bite. I mean, that's just going to happen. So that's 7.3 MHF, guys. There's a reason I have 10 of them. I had Savannah send me like 4 more the other day. It's just so versatile, and especially with either a lipless or that chatterbait. I mean, proof's in the pudding. That's what I caught that one in Cayuga on. I mean, that was back in the early prototype stages of the Victory model. I mean, it'd be hard pressed for you to give me one that I don't have that one as an answer somewhere. So it is what it is.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, I made up with it.
Oh yeah. Well,
awesome.
I mean, Ryan, you guys, like we said at the beginning of the show here, you guys hit a home run with the Victory. We're really pleased with it. Our customers are really pleased with it. Even some of the guys who are diehard, avid, guys, they're loving it to death. I think you did right on the handles too. I think that was important. And you nailed it there. So
can't wait to see the future brings.
Yeah, absolutely. We're excited about all the stuff coming down the road.
Near future.
Now, Ryan, are you off to the Classic?
I am off to the Classic. So I am off to the Classic actually Wednesday. So we fly down there. We set our booth up. So if you're, for everybody that sees our booth get set up there, we go down, we set it up. When we go to ICAST, we set that one up and we all sweat together. But we set the booth up, and we'll be in the booth ready to roll.
All right. And Derek, what do you got on the plate? What are you getting ready for? Are you going down to the Classic to hang out, or what's going on?
Yes. I'm one of those unfortunate souls that missed the Classic cut by a spot. So I will be down there hanging out with Teach. You guys come by the Classic booth. I will put those rods in your hand. And guys, if you have any questions, reach out to me. I run my own social media, answer my own questions. Teach does the same thing. Message St. Croix, guys. Any of us, Stephen Browning to Jesse Wiggins to Bob Downey. A lot of guys are scared to reach out to us because they think they might not get a response.
Yeah.
We are all extremely responsive. We will help you guys with any questions you need. Guys, I've had people reach out to me and say, I fish a competitor's brand rod. I'm happy with it. I do this. And I'm going to tell you the same thing, guys. I mean, we're all different. I mean, I'm not going to try to talk you out of what you're doing. If it's not broke, don't fix it. There's a rod for everybody. But St. Croix is, we're fortunate to have kind of a rod for everybody because we cover all spectrums and we can kind of help point you to the right direction. I saw one of your listeners post a question a minute ago who said he's not a fan of the Victory. That's okay. That's all right.
Yeah.
Not everybody's going to like it. He would rather the Avid X's, but I can tell you, whoever said that, I'll find his name. I'm not a fan, Mike Colfer. And I said, the rod that's coming out in the Classic, I think that guy's going to be a big fan of that one. So just go put it in your hands.
Yep.
And not everybody's going to like everything, but if we can help, reach out.
Absolutely.
Well, guys, thanks for coming on. Helping us out tonight. You really made the show unique, interesting, dropped some awesome knowledge on us. We'll definitely meet up with you face to face at ICAST.
Yeah, Derek, if you're coming through, man, and you're close to
I'll be there.
our shop, swing in, buddy. We'll take care of you for a night.
Absolutely. We head up to upstate New York a little later in the season. I might have to do that.
Yeah, come on by, Derek. We might even be lobbying to get you to our next event here in the late summer when you're going on your swing. Little thing we like to call Bassapalooza. So we'll start putting the pressure on the powers to be at St. Croix to swing you on by.
Ryan Teach,
Yes, sir.
Derek Hudnall, thanks so much, guys, for stopping by.
Really appreciate you.
And we appreciate you.
Anytime,
Thanks,
guys.
everybody.
Okay, guys. Well, we're going to talk about a few more things tonight. We want to thank Derek and Ryan one last time, and we want to thank St. Croix for providing them and for them taking some time out of their evening. We really enjoyed having. We learned a lot.
Man, I think the breakdown of the rods and the graphite just really helps everybody understand what you're up against when you're picking rods, and just explain carbon fiber and how they work with it. We've always been a big fan of St. Croix here in the shop. Like George said, we've been selling them for 30 years.
Well,
pretty much.
I mean, pretty much since the very beginning. Yeah.
Yeah. Ever since the,
I think the first year we opened, we didn't have them, but after that we had premieres and the old reddish marine colored legends.
So one thing that we've always prided ourselves is in learning about graphite and carbon fiber and tapers and actions and how it affects this and how it affects that. And these guys, Ryan Teach, just some kind of great knowledge base he has.
Yeah, it was good stuff.
And
good stuff.
That was great. Well, we're going to move on to the show here. We got some tackle talk coming up here. We've got some tournament stuff we're going to try to get to. But right now, let's talk about some tackle talk.
Yeah.
What we got coming down the pipeline here, Jordan? We got all kinds of stuff we've been working with.
Get cameraman Nick to pan to his left.
Pan due left, Nick.
A very large shipment of very highly desirable fishing reels came by today. And there's enough to go. There's enough to go around, as it turns out.
Son.
That's right. Stacks and stacks.
Oh, yeah.
Of Vanfords.
Stacks and stacks. Piles in the aisles, racks in the stacks.
Not all sizes, but we got 2,500s and 4,000s. So that's kind of interesting. And wanted to make that announcement because we get quite a few questions on when will the Vanfords be back in again.
Yeah.
Well, they here.
Got
a couple baits we want to talk about because everybody likes talking about baits. So the Rapala BX series, which stands for Balsa Extreme, it's basically a balsa. Anything that says BX is basically a balsa bait encapsulated in a resin body. So the Brat series, which is a 4-wheel drive crankbait, Shallow Water Demon. The 3 and the 6 is where it started. They're the smaller body. And that refers to their diving depth. This is the mid brat. Last year they brought out the big brat, which is a big size bait.
Yeah.
This is the mid brat, which
I like
is
that size, man.
This is kind of like a 1.5 square bill size. So you have a really aggressive, hard wobbling, 4-wheel drive, capable of coming through anything bait.
Is that more of a buoyant bait too?
Very buoyant. Balsa.
Pops up. Yeah. Pops up.
Balsa, but the balsa is inside of a resin body. VMC treble hooks on it, so it's nice, ready to go out of the pack. The mid brat. There's a couple new colors called Hot Dang and Sleeper that they also ran through the original brat 3 and the 6. So you got some new colors in those. And then there's some new colors we always talk about lipless baits this time of the year, because if you're not fishing them, go back and watch our lipless bait shows, because you need to be throwing lipless baits hardcore. This is the Rip and Wrap. There's some new colors. The Rip and Wrap's not necessarily a new bait. It's fairly new, but it's not a new bait. But there's some new colors.
Yeah, they got some great colors, some interesting colors.
Well, a lot of the colors are for the walleye market.
Yeah. We're stocking
because they jig these for walleye.
Yeah.
But a few of the oddball walleye colors are really well suited to the bass fishing market. Yeah. So we've got those in stock.
Yeah.
We wanted to bring that to your attention.
We got them for the walleye guys too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And finally, Daiwa has finally delivered their ballistic MQ. MQ stands for monocoque.
What a fantastic reel.
Yeah, they finally got them here.
That's fantastic.
So basically, I wanted to kind of break down, because you're seeing a lot of monocoque actually on the Daiwa line. You see it in the Kaje, which is like a dealer exclusive / specialty line of rods and reels, strictly designed for the bass market. They did a monocoque in that. They also do it in their some of their saltwater baits. Some of their saltwater reels, like the BG. So now they're doing it in the ballistic. And what that means is that the body, which is Zion, which is a very light, not metal, not carbon material.
Zion. It's Zion.
To eliminate flex and movement, there's no screws to remove to take the side plate off. So basically, anytime you see monocoque, this round plate right here, which is highlighted in the red, they call that an engine plate. And that threads into the body. So you will actually thread that out of the body. Thread it into the body to seal the body once you put the drive gear and the other internals in there. So it keeps this body as one kind of rigid piece. So that's kind of a big deal.
That's huge, because it builds in a ton of durability.
It does.
That's what it does. It builds in a ton. It keeps that gear in line.
Keeps everything. It keeps the frame from flexing.
It keeps everything in line, and you have that smoothness for years and years and years.
Yeah, and you have. They also use mag seal. So mag seal is magnetic oil.
That is some cool stuff. You ever see that stuff, Nick?
I have not.
Mag seal oil is.
I have some.
It's like it's like something you would see on on a space movie where you're up in space and there's this black blob liquid that's coming to try to kill everybody. That's exactly what it reminds me of. It's the coolest stuff in the world. It's oil with magnetic qualities to it. It's cool as shit.
Yeah. So what they do is they take a bearing, and the inner raceway of the bearing, not where the little ball bearings are, but like the inner, where the spool shaft goes through the bearing.
Yeah.
that groove is filled with mag oil. And if you look at this, Nick, this jar here, okay, you can see that there's a magnet here and a magnet there. And all the oil in this jar is stuck to the magnet. In other words, the oil is suspended in the jar.
Suspended oil. See what I'm saying, Nick? That's
So,
space aged.
Imagine
That's creature like.
Imagine the spool shaft is magnetized, and this oil
It's alien.
is on the inside raceway of that bearing, and it's sealing that shaft off. So you can see when you take it off the bearing, all the oil just falls back into a liquid form.
Ooh, wait a second.
When you put it back on the bearing, in a few minutes, you can see it forming up there. All the oil in that jar you can see it forming.
Oh, Nick. Huh? Did I nail it, Nick?
So,
huh?
You guys nailed it.
Is that not alien?
Daiwa uses that on their spool shafts
Alien.
and on their line roller bearings to keep water and particles from getting in there. So this reel has that. And that's, that's a big deal. The 2500, we stocked the XH model, which is a 6.2 to 1 gear ratio, bringing in 34.5 inches of line per crank. And it's very light, 6.9 ounces. And we also stocked a 3000 model, which is a slower ratio, a torquier 5.2 to 1. But because it's a bigger diameter spool, it's still retrieving 30.6 inches of line per crank on a full spool, 7.6 ounces. So ballistic mono
Coke.
MQ, monocoque.
Monocoque MQ.
$229.99.
That's the kind of weird thing about it. It's priced really good.
Yeah, I mean it's an expensive reel, but it's not out of control.
No, I know, but you look at some of that technology that was out there a couple years ago. It was $400, $399. It was expensive.
Yeah. Well, the MQ Kajay is $3 and change.
Yeah. It's a great. That's what I mean. It's a great price.
I feel the ballistic's a better value.
Value is definitely there, and it's Zion, which is as light as carbon. A lot of
and unlike
carbon fiber reels,
unlike the basketball player, this reel will never sit in injury reserve. Another product that I wanted to point out to you,
that was over my head,
is
who was that basketball player?
Zion Williamson. If you have to ask, that's bad.
Oh, I get it.
Played like one game.
That's true.
Reigns, for all you guys that are looking to really
step your game up with
get the best of the best,
tungsten.
Reigns tungsten. Okay. Premium tungsten with an insert. So there's a little Teflon, nylon, whatever kind of insert in there. Keeps if there's any imperfections in tungsten, it'll cut your line to death.
Yeah. So it fixes that. That's all in stock.
And then,
I like these.
Every company in America has copied Bass Mafia Money Bag. Daiwa being no exception. But these are nice.
They're a lot more rigid.
They're very nice. They're a stiffer,
and I like the zipper.
They're a stiffer, thicker mill.
Yeah.
They have a nice zipper with a pull tab on them.
Yep.
This is the large size.
Yeah,
which the biggest one,
which isn't huge, and you can really specialize your stuff.
I put some baits in there, like some Reigns bubble shakers and some missiles.
Oh, there,
just to show you the size.
A little Derek Hudnall missile in there.
Yep. Just to show you the size. These things are great.
I saw you got a big shipment of Yamamoto in today too, George.
I did.
Big shipment of Yamamoto.
And then one of the cool things is on the small size.
Yeah.
This is great if you're fishing with a buddy and you don't want to, you're digging tackle out of your boat.
Like a day bag.
I mean, this is perfect for a handful of spinner baits and a few chatter baits.
Yeah. It's nice.
Yeah, this is the small size.
It's nice. I like it.
So Those are the Daiwa bags. And you know what? The only other thing I want to point out is some overachievers.
Overachievers.
We've got some overachievers in the crowd.
Thank you. Nice to meet you. How you doing?
Yeah.
Mike Acord, overachiever.
So we have the Bass Pro Tour going on Lake Fork. Today it was 30 with ice. Not exactly what you expect in Texas this time of the year. And they are the top 10 guys. A lot of them are banging them up on the OG Slim, which is a flat-sided crankbait we have talked about quite a bit. This is the original OG 6 size. There's now a new OG 4. They're doing very well with this because it's a great cold water bait. And last week on the Elite Series tour on Harris Chain of Lakes, I should say, one of the top finishers, Ray Hanselman out of Texas, was throwing the Hybrid Hunter and the Hybrid Hunter Junior and just freaking burning them up.
He was fishing it real fast.
Super fast. He was fishing on a big rod with big line, 20-pound line.
Oh, yeah.
The Hybrid Hunter Junior.
Oh, yeah.
Which, is a grass crankbait. So we wanted to point that bad boy out to you. Yeah. So what else you guys got? You got anything interesting?
Yeah, I got a big announcement. That I forgot what the original announcements, Nick. You're supposed to remind me of this stuff. Telling you.
I'll do a better job.
He goes to freaking Florida, George.
I went to Florida, lost my mind. What do you want?
It's just gone. It's just gone. It's still down there. It's on the lake.
It happens.
Don't forget, Cabin Fever sale, March 18th and 19th, coming up in a little bit of weeks. We're gearing up for it. We nailed down
Alex Davis. Spinnerbait Guide Service,
Yep.
Major League Fishing Tour Pro.
Yep, we nailed
Fishes
him down.
their pro circuit.
A hell of a guy down there.
He's a Gunnersville guy.
Gunnersville.
And he's been doing this for a long time, and he's going to do some seminars. He's also
Yep.
going to spend some time just
hanging,
just talking fishing in the shop.
We got him for 2 days in the shop here. So
we're going to try not to tie him up too much on seminars because we're going to want him to be able to just like free talk with you. But he's going to do some seminars.
A couple seminars. Yeah.
He's going to hang. He's going to talk.
Talk
tournament talk. We're going to have some other anglers, visiting anglers as well.
Well, we got a muskie seminar that we're real excited about with Rocky from Susquehanna Smallmouth Guide Service. He's a fantastic guide for muskies down on the Potomac River and also on the Susquehanna River. We never did that before, but there's so much interest in muskie fishing from bass guys, from bass heads and muskie fishermen. Any little bit of information will help you. This guy has it for you. Make sure you keep that in mind for this. And we're working on some other stuff, some other seminars, and I'm sure we'll have a smallmouth seminar or whatever in there. It's just going to be it's 2 days.
It's 2 days.
2 days.
And for those of you that can't make it, right immediately following the close of business, the Cabin Fever online sale will kick off for a couple of days. So if you can't get here, don't worry. We will have an online sale for you.
Yep.
Kicking off as soon as our store sale's over.
Yeah, it's midnight on Saturday night. It'll kick off on Sunday on Saturday night at midnight, and it'll run for 3 days. For everybody that's too far away that they can't make the event, we'd like to share it with everybody. That's going to be our big deal going on. So I just wanted to make that announcement. Nick, you're going to be here.
I will be here.
Cameraman Nick's going to be here for sure. Walking around, sharing the love with his camera, making everybody embarrassed.
That's what we do.
It's amazing how everybody runs. It's like, oh shit, there's cameraman Nick. I'm out of here.
They do.
Later.
A lot of fishing going on around the country right now.
Yeah, so we finished up with the tournament down there in Florida with
it was the Elite Series tournament on the Harris Chain.
Yeah.
which was wonderful.
Great tournament. It was awesome to watch that.
Yeah, really good tournament.
It was a
last
nail
week.
biter. It was an absolute nail biter, because how many people in that tournament where 1 4.5, 5 pound fish would change everything for the day? There was a lot of them.
Yeah, I don't have the standings in front of me, but you're right about that.
I'm telling you,
Yeah.
what was 5 pounds was
And it
difference for
was a
everything.
big game changer. The funny thing was, I was down there for the practice and all that, is going into it, all the pros, I mean, they had themselves convinced that these fish were going to come up and it was going to be 30-pound bags.
Yeah.
But it never works out that way. You guys know
Sometimes it does.
Yeah. But
Rick Clunt,
weather,
2 years ago, was it?
Well, the problem down there, the weather just kept getting cold at night.
Yeah,
It
right.
just kept getting cold. And it was interesting because if you could get that one big bite each day or one of the days, it was going to be a game changer for you, because if you look at most guys' bags, the average fish was the same size.
Right.
It was that one big bite that made the difference.
Right.
And, that's just the way it went.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, we've said it for years in here. Wintertime fishing in Florida is exceptional or difficult. We've said for years, when you're gearing up to go to Florida, make sure you take your finesse baits with you, because, I mean, you get those cold nights. Those Florida strains do not like it, and that tournament really tested we had anglers that were sight fishing.
Yeah.
Not a lot of that, but they caught some big fish off bed. We had anglers that were blind sight fishing. It's kind of an oxymoron, but they're fishing where they can't see fish, but they know they're bedding. And a lot of them, if you paid attention, even talked about fishing so slow that as they drug their Texas rig, they could feel it fall down into a depression and then feel the hard center of that fanned out bed. Obviously, gravel and particularly shell played a major role on grass flats.
Yeah.
And something that we talk about all the time in here,
hard bottom,
is the power of a lipless crankbait.
Mm-hmm.
You saw Brian Schmidt and you saw Buddy Gross do some serious damage on a Spro Uruku shed. I mean, we saw Brian Schmidt catch an 8-pounder like immediately in the morning.
Well, they watched the show, George, so they we've been talking about that for a while.
It shows
and they were picking it up.
It shows the importance of that.
Yeah.
It shows the importance of that technique. Of course, you saw the chatterbait play.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I really enjoy about following tournaments is how these techniques can, help me to become a better fisherman. And we love to talk about them as to how they can help you to become a better fisherman, because that's what we're all striving to do. I mean,
look at the jerkbait though too.
The jerkbait has become.
Jeez.
I mean, if you're not a jerkbait fanatic, I mean, it is a year-round player.
If you don't have forward-facing sonar on a jerkbait, how can you compete?
It is something, because when I was on Greg's boat, he goes, "Nick, come on up here," and you could see those fish, and you throw that jerkbait out there, and you could see them react to that jerkbait.
Yeah,
it was pretty cool.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
one
of the things I wanted to quickly bring up is I got questions coming home was, about these anglers slowing down. Okay. One thing you got to realize, when these bodies of water are as big as they are, it gives you confidence to slow down when you feel like you're on the right fish.
Yeah.
But if you never feel like you're on the right fish, it's hard for your mind.
Yeah.
It's hard to do that.
Wow.
It's easier to do when you get one of the right bites. You're like, oh, let's fish through here a little bit slower.
Yeah.
But when you're not yet, your mind just tells you, let's just
gotta keep going until you figure something out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Well, and to that point there, I noticed in the mornings, particularly, a lot of the anglers would wind. They would throw a lipless, they would throw a chatterbait, they would throw a swim jig. And a couple of them even remarked on live, in the morning, the fish are, in that feeding mode and they're moving down at that particular tournament. And you have that window where, because just about every morning, guys pulled up and started immediately catching fish after fish after fish. Mm. Then you would see them have to go to wacky. Brian Schmidt was picking up that missile quiver, the 6.5-inch quiver, and wacky rigging that and picking apart. And he even said, I don't want to slow down, but I feel like now that bite is over and I need to slow down. And he would catch a good fish. He would catch a bunch of small fish, but he would catch a good fish. Buddy Gross, what did we talk about a couple weeks ago? The Carolina rig.
Yep.
I mean, Buddy Gross, Carolina rigged a swimming worm.
Yeah.
Pulling it uphill. Another key part of his thing, which I think is something we can all benefit from when we're fishing, structure that has small patches of cover on it. His structure was basically a little ripple in the sand.
Sounds like a song.
And
ripple in the sand.
On the top of that ripple was a shell.
The skies are gray.
And there was a patch of that shell where those fish were really relating to, and he was pulling that Carolina rig up that hill. I mean, that was big.
He's trying to keep a straight face. I know he is.
No, I'm just trying to talk fishing.
It is interesting what
you're not good at being funny.
He tries. But George, what's interesting what you said, and I didn't get to watch the live like you guys did, was you said the first couple hours there was a good bite.
Yeah.
For the winders.
Yeah. Well, they chose to wind in the first couple hours.
But I mean they bit. And the funny thing is people got to realize how big this water is. It took some guys an hour and a half, 2 hours just to get to their spot. And I wonder with that, if that window was gone.
Yeah.
Time.
Because it was a short window in the morning. That's all timing, man.
Yep.
You hear guys say, oh, I just couldn't get my timing right.
Right.
I was just, that happens so much. A lot of the times when you do bad, your timing is just not right. You didn't make the right move at the right time. It's funny how when you're on your game, every move you make
can't do nothing wrong.
Can't do anything wrong because you got your timing down. Your gut tells you it's time to move. Your gut tells you to do this. And
it's funny because Greg and I were talking last week, and tournament fishing in our mind has to be one of the ultimate, it's like a chess match all the time. Everything you have to make the right moves at the right time, set yourself up.
Right.
And it's just, you make your best educated guesses and you go with it. But
crazy.
Sometimes it goes your way and sometimes it don't.
Well, that's fishing.
Yep.
And that's fishing. And guys say, well, I got to learn from my mistakes. Well, that's exactly what they're saying is I got to learn from my mistakes. I should have zigged when I zagged, And I know I say that all the time when I'm fishing.
Right.
Well, the other part of that tournament that was something that I really keyed in on, and I think we talk about here a lot. Obviously, the chatterbait, but if you look at where they were throwing that chatterbait, so look at John Cruz when he had that really good day in the previous tournament on the St. John's. It was specifically on pad edges where those fish the bucks were up, setting up areas to spawn in that pad field. Those bigger females were staging on those edges, and that chatterbait was the best choice for that. Mm-hmm. We saw Scott Martin at the Harris chain in Lake Apatka.
He's flipping a creature.
Well, he was, but I'm focusing on that chatterbait situation where he would go down those kind of featureless straightaways of pads, and he would say, I feel like there's fish staging here that want to move up, and he'd pick that chatterbait up and he'd go down those edges and he'd catch now it was more morning related, but he'd catch 2 or 3 or 4 average fish, and he would say, if I just stick with this long enough, and then boom, he'd catch a good fish. Mm-hmm. Then that window would go away and he'd go to that flipping bite where he was flipping a creature bait.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it showed us the importance of that chatterbait on those pre-spawn fish on those pad edges, right? That was a big deal.
Yeah.
So there were some really good takeaways and lessons for us to learn from that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, this week we're fishing, we're watching the Bass Pro Tour on Lake Fork.
What a bunch of pansies.
And they're catching
it's cold, Henry. I ain't going out.
I mean, they're catching 7 to 10-pound fish like it's going out of style.
That's awesome.
But what's interesting here is the lake's down, and they are following small baby creek channels. They call them drains. And these fish are going back and forth on these drains. They're trying to go up. The weather's pushing them back. There's some that are up. There's some that are back. They're scattered. They're not grouped up. Some of them are grouped up. So you see everyone, for the most part, winding something.
One thing I noticed about that is that those drains were real defined by the trees.
Yeah.
You know, it was
Pretty cool.
It was like, you know, you look at it, you're like, well, I know what I'm doing. You know, it really tells you what's going on there. You know, you don't have to.
Yeah, it's very cool.
You know, but if the lake was up, right, you couldn't see that. So you really had to know, you know, where that was. But this exposed a lot of that stuff that and everybody was doing it.
It also exposed, once again, the jerkbait.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, these guys all of them are forward-facing sonar.
It's crazy.
100%.
Yeah.
Moving and looking.
Yeah.
Wheeler.
That freaking Wheeler.
He had an 81.5-pound lead on his group. 81.5
I don't think it was
lead.
that much, though.
Oh, look it up.
What was it? What do you have? 103 pounds, I think, or something. Was it 81.5 pounds?
Lead.
God, that guy's amazing.
He was following these channels and throwing this jerkbait on these. He was sight fishing with his forward-facing sonar. You saw a lot of jerkbait fish. You see they're doing a lot of cranking. They're throwing the heck out of this OG Slim.
Mm-hmm.
Throwing the heck out of this OG Slim.
Yeah.
Water
temperature was 52 degrees, as high as 52, I think. And then, you know, the air temperatures got down low, but the last day of the knockout round, it was 30 degrees outside with 52-degree water temperature. It's kind of deceiving. I always said, George, the spring warm up and cool down, you know what I mean, is different.
It is.
Than the fall where you have a cold front and the water just drops out real quick. The spring seems like it holds its temperature when you have a cold front rip through real quick. Better, don't you think?
Yeah. It was interesting. Jesse Wiggins, who Derek had brought up, you know, he caught a 9.5 pounder on a jerkbait.
Gosh.
Imagine that.
Nick, I'm not going to lie. I'd crap my pants. I really would.
That's a big fish.
That's a big fish.
So tomorrow they postponed. I looked up the weather. I was bad mouthing them a little bit for quitting early.
Yeah, they
quit early because there was a lot of anglers that were making runs that they needed to have that last period. Yeah. And I'm talking amongst ourselves. You know, we were saying some negative stuff, and then we talked kind of negatively about today. But then about halfway through the day today, I pulled up the weather for where they're fishing. And it was in the afternoon. So their time, it would have been like 1. It was 30 degrees and it was freezing rain. I'm not so sure they didn't make a good call to quit today. But tomorrow they're going out, championship round, top 10, must-see TV. Okay? You're going to have Jacob Wheeler, who's been dry docked for 3 days. He's probably sharpened his hooks, had so much he had to change them. You got a really stacked field. You got the father-son Alton Jones squadron. You're gonna see what we saw a lot of. You're gonna see the single Colorado spinnerbait, the double tandem Colorado, the Colorado Indiana. You're gonna see big 3/4 ounce and 1 ounce spinnerbaits play. You're going to see this flat-sided bait. You're going to see this OG Slim in action, and you're going to see all the anglers doing this all day long.
Watching TV. See, I think they're a bunch of wimps because freezing rain, it doesn't scare me. You know what I do? I just bust out the golf shoes, you know. Then as the ice gets on the carpet, you have your golf shoes so you don't slide around. That's a pro pointer if I ever heard one.
Just
saying. Ways around it.
Well, boys, we kind of getting long in the wind here. And, next week's show is going to be the Bassmasters Classic. And we're going to do a classic-themed show.
Preview.
We're going to talk. The Classic is going to start the next morning. We're going to talk Classic. It's going to be like a combination of Sports Center, the Classic Outdoor Show. But most importantly, we're going to talk about deep, cold, clear water tactics. We're going to talk about underspins.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my God.
Scrounger heads.
Oh, my God.
What do you got, Nick? Say something.
It's going down.
You gotta say it
Shaky
like a
head
baby.
worm.
See, it was boom, boom.
Well, you guys just
And-
have
and-
me in
and I'm
amazement.
coming at
It's
you.
all good.
We're going to talk about
Football jig.
shad wraps. We're going to talk about wiggle warts. Next week's going to be cold, clear,
Spro rock collar. See how it's flowing, Nick?
pre-spawn
It's flowing.
conditions. Bassmasters Classic. And we hope to see you there.
Absolutely. We'll see you guys next time
Thank you so much.
on another edition of Tackle
Tackle
Shop
Shop
Live.
Nick?
I met you on a sunny day. Right there, you took my breath away. Young and pretty, was it just a dream? The next day, you called me up. You told me I'm your little buttercup. You came over and you fell into my arms. Well, I know what I feel. Please tell me your love is real. You make me smile when I think of you. If I am down or when I am blue, I can't get enough. You make me happy, I feel so fine. Oh, how I wish that you were mine. I can't get enough. Oh, please love her. I woke up all soaked in sweat, with chills running down my neck. I'm going crazy from just the thought of you. A long blonde hair and your beautiful smile. Your sense of humor makes it all worthwhile. Don't make me wait, it's not a funny game. You know just what I feel. Please tell me your love is real.